Hello, and welcome to NoobTuned. Today we are going to be building a base map using HTS. I'm going to go over a couple things, just some basics. It should be a pretty quick video, just explaining what exactly is happening here. So, quick overview of the options that HTS offers is going to be on this features page. So you can come to the HondaTuningsuite.com website /features, and it will show you, everything that they're working on. They have K series in development. All of the OBD1 stuff is working out great, and from what I know, J series is on the list too. So go Team V6 because I cannot wait. I have many J series Accords, and I want to do stuff with them. But main software features: note, K, R, L, J engines are currently in testing for VIP members. VIP members is something that you can join. I believe it's $100. That could have changed though. But naturally aspirated turbo and or nitrous Honda engines D, B, F, H series. You can select from a few different ECUs. Those can be found on motes.com, HA Motorsports. They all show you which ECUs can be socketed or chipped, whichever term you want to use. And once you are at that point, you can then use this software, because HTS is free for the public and always will be, as they say. So you can always donate. It makes everything great. Sometimes devs' laptops break, stuff happens, and we all pitch in and make sure that they can keep working, and it is a great scene. You see how we have a base map creator? That's one of the huge things on HTS that people just don't know how to do, and that part of the software is literally taking a lot of weight off the shoulders on a new tuner. The table editing features, data logging features, all this can be read by coming to the website. And there's, general features, you got more, there's so much. In my opinion, it is the closest thing to one of the more expensive tuning solutions out there. So, back to the software. So as I run through everything, we'll get out of our windowed mode, so everything is on one page. And then we want to start with choosing new base ROM. Now, when we do this, HTS is going to bring up a base ROM, base map creator. Here we can name our base ROM Integra Fast Car ROM. When it comes to Honda Tuning Suite, we always want to use the latest version that they have to offer. The version 1.15 is the most stable at the moment. Using any lower base ROMs is a use at your own risk type of situation. As you can see, it has different settings and limitations. You can end up here in your rev limits, and you won't have any ignition cut controls. So back to choosing a stable base ROM, you can see that more settings appear. So more stable, more features, and so on. What's the wizard doing? What's this creator doing for us? Well, it's doing a lot of things that normally would be done on the tuner's part. Other softwares require you to, let's say for instance, we open up an S manager. If we wanted to make a new calibration, we'd pick any one of these and it would give us a random table, but we still have to go in and tell it which injectors we have and so on. So when we use a BaseMap creator, or what I like to call a wizard, here in Honda Tuning Suite, we get to start off with picking if we have a different map sensor. Usually you won't if you're not boosting your vehicle or it's not seeing positive pressure. Um, the stock map sensor from Hondas will read up to 11.5 pounds or so. So you can leave this alone if you plan to be in that realm. Next, we have Injector Setup. These are two areas. This area where we have the size of the injector is going to scale the duty of the map. And to quickly show you what I mean, you want to pick your injector here. This is picking your voltage offset. Let's say we got some MDXs. I'm going to say yes. And when we choose RDX, we're going to skip the boost section for now. But I just want to show how when we take a Type R map and we look at the tables, and 689 in this corner, you can see the scaling. Bring this over and check out our VTEC map, and it's a little wonky there, but all that can be tuned out. So again, numbers. So we see the numbers 792 in the corner. We can build another, or before I do that, I will show you duty cycle. Now what it has done is it's 41% of that injector at this point, and it's probably going to need to be tuned a little bit. If I go back and we choose the same map, but we choose a smaller injector, we're going to choose a 2000 LX, like a Y7 injector, which is a 190. Okay. And our GSR map. Now you can see that it's the same map, but injector scaling has changed because it's a smaller injector and the injector is maxing out when in VTEC here. It's probably going to need more fuel, and that's where you end up. Once you go on past 100, you can't really do much more. So that's just a quick example of what's happening when you're using the wizard and building the base map with HTS. File, new, you can name it if you want. Choose the most stable ROM. Choose which map sensor you have. If it's custom, you can, this is a 0 volt, 5 volt, and it will scale it out in the program. Another thing that you have to set up in the software when you open it to start a new calibration, whether it be in Chrome, Data, and so on. But HTS has a base map creator to help us. So next thing we want to do, say we want to make boost. Well, let's get back to our 440cc RDX injectors. And we want to add boost. Another thing that you can do while you're on this page is select which transmission you have. This will help the software know the gearing, which gear you're in, and if you are doing boost by gear and such, you can set up the numbers correctly. Now, if you have a Frankenstein transmission, there is a transmission tool, learn tool, where it will learn your gear ratios and you type it all in and all that stuff. but we want to rescale this map for boost. So normally when you make a base map, it ends at, almost half a pound, 0.38 psi. So the map can see atmospheric pressure, and then it has nowhere else to read. So once you start getting into boost, it doesn't know what to do. The software will literally tell you that you are outside of the map, and then that's when you get the check engine light, and it's just, you don't know what's happening unless you have a wide band and stuff, and you can see what the computer's actually throwing at it. But rescale for boost. Since a stock map sensor pegs out at 1126, we're going to put our boost cut at 9, so we're not flirting with the end of the sensor, and we will spread out the columns. Let's give it 10 just for an example. 1 degree per psi. This is a common recommendation for most Honda tuners, where you pull timing out for every pound the car makes. If you want to be conservative, you can add 1/4 of a degree to this for every pound. Next, we have sensors and options. Normally the software disables all of these because the pins used for them and so on get used for other things, and this is turning off the check engine light whenever those are out of range when it comes to what the stock software or programming should say it should be. So we go to next, we choose our map, and this is where, like, you can kind of go through these and choose which map you like to start off with the best. Some of them are a little smoother looking than others. Some of them have good timing maps that others like to start off with, because to get fueling down is simple. It is quick. There's no reason to try and every base map until your fuel's right. It literally takes no time to correct your fueling if you know what you're doing and you're this far into it. We will learn, and I'll have videos on how to do the fueling on the car soon, but we just need to get the car started. So we're going to use our base map, our GSR, Type R, map, boost has been added, and we have 440cc injectors. Now you can see this 2D map, and then if we scroll and make room on my very poor resolution laptop, it's 15-inch screen with only 1366 resolution instead of 1080, so that's not fair. But you can see the 440cc injector is showing it's at 80% at the side of the map in VTEC, and that's just a roundabout ballpark, so it's going to accelerate, and you're going to find out where them lean spots are and stuff and so on. But what the wizard has done for us is when you go through the wizard, it's setting up all the important stuff. So it's giving you all of your dead times for your injectors, and these things can be changed later on. You don't have to do it in the wizard, but the wizard's there to help you get the car started. Then it's on to tuning after that. So you can set your rev limits, you can set up your ignition cuts if you want to use ignition cut instead of rev limit. You can set up your launch control, you can set up your boost settings. We just expand all these. You can see how all those options are here. We can turn off sensors, we can mess with idle. One thing that is done, people get chrome cars and for some reason they don't want to idle right, and this vacuum leak fuel cut is what's happening to them. Somehow Chrome doesn't have a way to adjust this TPS number so that it doesn't mess with you, but that's a whole another thing. So that's just an extra perk. The anti-start protection has been re-added to the software. It's not like it was before where you could choose, like, you have to have your AC switch on and your foot at this certain spot, and so you could like really make a code out of it. But there were ways around it. It seems like this is more of a gimmick, but at the same time, uh, it can slow someone down if they're not heading with their own ECU or tow truck or whatever. You can enable this feature, and then you have to hold the pedal in between 10 and 15% if you know that exact spot, something like that, right? So back to all of our settings, we had idle, and now we have VTEC. Rev limit, you can add ignition cut options. MIL shift light, there we go, is what I meant. So shift light is another feature that comes with a lot of the other softwares. You can turn the check engine light into a shift light, and you can actually have a gear-based shift light with HTS. So if you want to shift earlier in first because it just burns the tires, but wrap it out in the other gears and you can kind of tune this to where it starts coming on and flickering before you get there, depending on how fast your car revs and so on. You can set these early so that way you shift on time, so on. You can figure out what you want. And the next thing that everyone tries to mess with that's basic is the launch control. That's another thing you can have always on, make it throttle adjusted, and set it to a good speed. So you can have the car launching at say 5,500 RPM, load it up, and then you're trying to find where these two are going to be in sync. So once it gets up to a certain speed, you want it to shut off launch control and let you rev all the way out, and you don't want to just be sitting there popping on an RPM and slowing down. So you got to find that sweet spot, and then this number lets you actually kind of spread out how fast it's going to bounce back. And so for example, like if I put 50 here, it's going to be like bum 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 because it's waiting for it to recover. And if I put 9, then it'll be like bum 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 bum, and until it hits the speed, and it's going to take off. Boost cut options, very simple. You can set a cold cut and a hot cut. That way your customer or you yourself don't go into boost while the car is cold, because everything is still expanding. You don't want to be pushing boost pressure past your piston rings and hurt things and so on. You usually want to turn this one off, limit at current RPM, because then it'll pop at the PSI versus it shutting the car down to 1200 RPM. Then output settings, those are advanced options. Overheating protection is nice. It will let you limit RPM. Traction control is in the works. Might be a VIP option at this point. AC cutoff settings. You can actually mess with your idle recovery for AC and have it cut off at certain loads and speeds and RPMs, whatever. Not load, but TPS. You can even just turn off AC and use the pin for AC for something else. Fuel cut decel, that is a popcorn type feature, or mainly you can turn it off, turn it on, whatever you want to do. When it's on, that's saving gas. Every time you let go of the gas all the way, it will actually cut the injectors. You will see your wideband go to dashes and show that it's just straight lean. It's just an air pump. So next thing that HTS has that everyone loves is popcorn mod. You can add this feature and it will mess with the tables in a way that it adds some negative timing to the deceleration portion of the vacuum portion of the map, and as you slow down, the cells will be going up like this, and it's a box, so it's going to be in these areas. I myself actually put these boxes at a negative number as well, That way when I shift, it can land and pop and then go back and then land and pop and so on. So that's just me using the arrows to move it around. But the video itself is getting a little lengthy here for the BaseMap, but you can see BaseMap Creator is a big help because it's literally asking you all the things that the software needs to know to get you started, to get your car started. And then at that point you're using live tuning or data logging and recording, and then seeing where your lean spots are at, adding fuel, so on. Um, and that should be it. That should be the finalization of your base map, and it should start your car. If you feel like you're gonna need fuel everywhere or something, you can do Control A and Control up arrow, and it's gonna add, that 1% every time you do it, and you can add some fuel over the whole map. One thing else that I can go over here is the timing maps. So you can see most timing is around the 17-16 area. This is a more of an advanced timing due to the Type R map we chose. So I just want to mention that we have a lot of people that want to build motors with Y motors or cranks or cams, whichever one it is that makes the 14 degree necessary. You can go in here and choose a P05 map, and you will get your 12 degree timing maps. Now, if you would like to mix and match, you can actually open up a second instance of HTS side by side and load in your favorite map. So let's say you have a Y7 Z6 and you want a Z6 fueling map, and you want a Y7 timing map. Well, we open up the software on both sides, or maybe on this computer, since the screen is smaller, they're going to be on top of each other. So you can see here we have the normal map, but you want this type of fueling or something, and that's where, like, you see this map right here. It's kind of jagged. VTEC's kind of weird. It has these dips, right? We can go back to our P05 map, and the fueling is a little more smooth. So it's up to you whether or not you want to try to build one map out of two and copy and paste them over. But basically, you could technically take all these values, Control A, select all, Control C to copy. Now it looks like VTEC and non-VTEC timing is the same. It is a P05 map, so I don't believe there's VTEC on that. But you can come over here to your normal VTEC motor and paste over your ignition values. And then you have a 12 degree base timing map with a Z6 fuel map. And then at that point, you can go to your parameters, choose your injectors. So let's say you just threw in some 440s and you want to go with RDXs again. You're going to see it change everything. Then we're going to come back over to our tables and see the colors have changed because of the duty cycle changing everywhere. So I hope I covered as much as possible to help you get a base map started for your build to start your car. The BaseMap creator built into HTS is one of the best things that helps make everything go smooth, especially when we're helping people uh, remotely. A lot of this help is through the internet, through the phone, and things like that. So um, I just want to get this video up so people can kind of see the gist of what making a base map is. I'm sure there will be comments on things that I've missed, and don't be afraid to read through those because everyone is full of plenty of information, but it's a good program to get a great base map, and then the features that come with HTS are just endless and awesome. And if you have an emulator that allows you to make live changes, then you end up having a lot of fun. You can also do the burn chip, pull chip, burn chip, pull chip method, but it takes a little more time. Not to say it can't be done. Recording a log, making changes on the log, re-uploading it to the chip is actually harder in some cases because you're not in real time. The car is now off and you're having to use your own brain to, I don't want to say guess, but calculate and come up with what needs to be done to make the car run. And that's why we have a base map creator or a wizard that helps us get the car started, get a base map going, and then we can get our car started and start tuning it. Because at that point, it's just all about getting our fuel in, getting our timing in. You know, you sync your distributor, you sync your TPS, you do all the main stuff that you would normally do. So, just to show where those are at, we have main settings, we have a TPS sensor, and you can enable custom TPS with your data logger connected. You do not have to have an emulator for this. And you would floor it and get your 100% value and your 0% value. And you can have your radiator fan operate with temperature number versus using the switch that is on the thermostat housing. And what else? Ignition lock and locking the timing. This does require a emulator to send the command down. There are other ways to do it, but with HTS, if you don't have something to emulate the chip, then you have to get the car to idle in this area of the map, or you change this area of the map wherever the car is idling, and you lock this part of the map to the timing that you want it to do, and then you would have to go through and make sure there's no temperature corrections, intake air temperature corrections, any kind of corrections. That way it locks timing. You're tricking the software into locking the timing, and then you can use a timing gun to sync your distributor if you only have a data logger and a chip or something like that. If you have an emulator, you can easily come up to ignition lock and choose the degrees that you would like to lock ignition and go from there. But recently learned that jumping the service connector does not lock ignition. It's more so for getting codes and other things, but it doesn't take your advance away. It doesn't do anything like that. The book clearly tells you to wait for operating temperature, and that makes it to where it lands here, and there's no corrections happening like fuel corrections, ECT corrections. You can see here it's as temperature goes up, it's going to trim fuel, so you can zero everything out and make sure that these aren't going to mess with you, and then put them back. But yep, hopefully I covered everything. We covered how to get and see a base ignition map from a 12-degree motor. There's all kinds of them in there. You can check them all out. There's ones that start at 19. There's ones that start at 17, 16, 12, 14. You know how and what is happening whenever you select injectors. It's changing duty cycle across the board and scaling it for you so the car will start and get you to the dyno. Same thing with the gear selection, the That's another thing. Transmission gear learning tool. You can set all this up, and there's so many features. People think that HTS, that people that have never used HTS think it's almost like another thing like Chrome or something where you have very limited options, and unless you're a dealer or a Chrome Gold map or something like that. But even then, there's no wizard. It's not helping you build the map. It's just like, here you go. Now it gets a tuning. So it lets you change everything, but it doesn't help you get started. And that's the best thing about HTS, in my opinion, is it's great for noob tuners. Um, it When I first used it, I never used anything again. I love the community. I love the software. I love how many changes you can make. You can turn these into real gauges. You can do all kinds of stuff. If you don't want a bar, you can turn it into a needle gauge or something like that. You can make them bigger and go on from there. Now, stuff like that does require a stronger computer sometimes, but uh, the software itself is great. I want to thank you for watching this video. Hopefully it has helped you with building a base map and understand what's happening when you do so. Our next video will be covering data logging, some wideband stuff, whatever it may be in the next video. I'll see you then. Again, thanks for tuning in to Noob Tuned, and have a good rest of your day.